What if Naruto Uzumaki, the knuckle-headed ninja, the boy who carried the burden of the Nine Tails and the dream of becoming Hokage, had also unlocked the forbidden power of the 8 inner gates? This single twist could completely change his destiny, the fate of his friends, and even the course of the shinobi world itself. That is the story we're exploring today. The 8 gates are not just another technique. They aren't like learning the Rasengan, or mastering Sage Mode, or even tapping into Kurama's chakra. The 8 gates are in a league of their own. They are the ultimate expression of pushing the human body past its natural limits, ripping open the very barriers that keep us alive in order to unleash godlike speed and power. And at the very end, the final gate doesn't just give power, it takes life. In canon, this technique belongs to Might Guy, the eternal rival of Kakashi Hatake, and the unshakable mentor to Rock Lee. We all remember the moment when Guy opened the 8th gate of death against Madara Uchiha, nearly destroying the godlike villain with nothing more than pure taijutsu. That moment proved how terrifying the 8 gates could be. So imagine that power in Naruto's hands. A boy already destined for greatness, already fueled by Kurama, already stubborn enough to push his body past any limit. Would he burn brighter than anyone else, or destroy himself before ever reaching his dream? That's the central question, and in order to answer it, we need to set some ground rules for this what if. First, we can't just give Naruto the gates as an automatic power-up with no cost. That would be boring, and honestly, it would erase the meaning of the gates themselves. In this scenario, Naruto still has to train to open the gates, just like Rock Lee. He still risks his life every time he uses them. The only difference is that, unlike in canon, he manages to learn the art of the 8 gates sometime during his training years. We'll explore exactly when and how later, but for now, let's assume that someone, maybe Might Guy, maybe Jiraiya, maybe even an accidental discovery, teaches Naruto how to use them. Second, we have to think about timing. If Naruto learns the gates too early, say before the Chunin exams, he could absolutely obliterate his classmates, and the story becomes unrecognizable. If he learns them too late, say during the war arc, then the effect is minimized, because by then he already has Sage Mode, Kurama's chakra, and eventually 6 paths power. The sweet spot, the place where this change creates maximum impact, is in the middle, somewhere between the Chunin exams and early Shippuden. That's when Naruto is still growing, still vulnerable, still seen as the underdog. Giving him the gates here creates the most interesting alternate path. Third, we need to remember who Naruto is. He's not a calculating genius like Shikamaru. He's not a natural prodigy like Sasuke. Naruto is reckless, emotional, and willing to put himself in danger if it means protecting others. So if this Naruto had the ability to open the 8 gates, there is no way he would use them sparingly. He would burn through them for his friends, for his village, for his dream. That means the cost of the gates becomes a central part of this story. The very thing that makes Naruto heroic, his willingness to sacrifice, could also lead him into tragedy. But before we reimagine Naruto's life with the gates, let's quickly remind ourselves what the 8 gates are in the world of Naruto. Because to understand how they would change Naruto, we need to understand why they exist in the first place. The 8 gates are essentially chakra limiters within the human body. Normally, our chakra circulatory system places natural barriers on how much energy can flow through at once. This prevents our muscles from tearing apart, our bones from breaking under stress, and our organs from overloading. But the technique of opening the gates forces these limiters open. Each gate that is unlocked increases speed, strength, and power exponentially. The first gate gives a rush of strength. The third and fourth gates make a shinobi faster than most eyes can track. The 6th and 7th gates make a human rival even the strongest of Cage, and the 8th gate, the Gate of Death, turns the user into a force capable of fighting gods, but at the absolute cost of their life. Canon gave us two shining examples of the gates. First, Rock Lee, the genius of hard work, who used them to fight Gaara during the Chunin exams. That fight showed us the brutal toll of the technique. Lee's muscles torn, his body unable to move afterward. Second, Might Guy, who in the war arc became the man who nearly killed Madara Uchiha in his Ten Tails Jinchuriki form. His 8th gate battle was a spectacle of pure martial arts and sacrifice. In Canyon, Naruto never touched this power. His path was different. He relied on the Shadow Clone Jutsu, on Kurama's chakra, on Sage Mode, and later on the gift of Hagoromo. But imagine if instead of Guy being the sole heir to this power, Naruto himself learned to use the gates. Immediately, several things change. Naruto's training arcs look different. His battles play out differently. His reputation among friends and enemies shifts. Even the dynamic with Sasuke would be rewritten, because instead of being the scrappy underdog, Naruto would be wielding one of the most dangerous and respected powers in the shinobi world. Now, let's talk tone. When we picture Naruto with the gates, it's tempting to imagine him steamrolling every enemy. But that's not really what makes this scenario interesting. What makes it interesting is the balance between power and cost. The 8 gates are the ultimate symbol of the shinobi theme: sacrifice. Rock Lee used them despite the pain. Guy risked everything to save his comrades. In Naruto's hands, the gates become not just a weapon, but also a reflection of his deepest personality traits. He's the boy who never gives up. But now, he's also the boy who could literally burn himself to death if he pushes too far. So, in this video, we're not just going to imagine Naruto punching harder. We're going to imagine the butterfly effect of his life being altered. What happens when Naruto uses the gates against Neji in the Chunin exams? How does the battle against Pain look if Naruto opens the 7th gate? Does Naruto steal Guy's thunder in the war arc? Or do they fight side by side in a completely different way? And most importantly, what does this do to Naruto's dream of becoming Hokage? Because if the gates shorten his lifespan, if they destroy his body, then Naruto's dream may come at a terrible price. Before we dive into those scenarios, let's take a step back and talk about why this what if matters. Naruto, as a series, is all about growth, perseverance, and the idea that anyone, no matter how small, can become great through sheer willpower. The 8 gates are the perfect representation of this theme. They don't require bloodline limits. They don't require a tailed beast. They don't require genius-level talent. They require nothing but hard work and the willingness to endure pain. In other words, they're the purest form of the Naruto philosophy. So, if Naruto had them, it's almost poetic. They would align perfectly with his character, but they would also test him in ways he never had to face in canon. This is why the question isn't just, would Naruto be stronger? The question is, would Naruto still be Naruto? If he had the ability to crush his enemies with the gates, would he lose that underdog spirit that made him so inspiring? Would his rivalry with Sasuke collapse because he simply outclassed him too early? Or would Sasuke spiral into darkness even faster, desperate to keep up? Would Naruto's recklessness lead him to use the gates before he was ready, leaving him broken and scarred long before the war arc? These are the tensions we're going to explore. So, let's set the stage for this alternate timeline. Here are the assumptions we're making for the rest of this story. 1. Naruto learns the 8 gates sometime during his early years, most likely under the influence of Might Guy. Maybe Guy sees Naruto's raw determination and takes him under his wing alongside Rock Lee. Maybe Jiraiya encounters Guy before training Naruto and borrows some of that philosophy. However it happens, Naruto starts training with the idea that opening the gates is possible. 2. Naruto doesn't immediately master all the gates. Just like Rock Lee, he unlocks them progressively. During the Chunin exams, maybe he can only open the first or second. By the Sasuke retrieval arc, he pushes further, perhaps the third or fourth. By the Pain arc, he's experimenting with the sixth. And by the War arc, he can unlock the seventh with the terrifying possibility of the eighth. This progression mirrors his canon growth, but adds an extra layer of danger. 3. The risks remain real. Every time Naruto uses the gates, his body is damaged. Bones crack, muscles tear, recovery is brutal. This keeps the power from being a free ticket to victory. It means that every time Naruto opens a gate, the audience feels that same tension we felt with Rock Lee, the thrill of power, mixed with the fear of consequence. And 4. Naruto is still Naruto. He doesn't use the gates like a cold weapon. He uses them with heart. He uses them to protect people, to save his friends, to defend his village. That means he is more reckless than even Rock Lee or Guy. Because while they used the gates with discipline and restraint, Naruto would throw himself into them whenever he felt it was necessary. And that recklessness is going to change a lot of battles. By laying these ground rules, we keep the story balanced. Naruto gets stronger, yes, but he also gets more fragile. His victories are grander, but the costs are heavier. That tension is what makes this scenario worth exploring for 2 full hours. So, now that we've set up the concept, we're ready to dive into the meat of this journey. In the next chapter, we'll look closely at the history of the 8 gates in canon. We'll revisit Rock Lee's legendary fight against Gaara. We'll analyze Might Guy's last stand against Madara, and we'll break down the mechanics of each gate one by one. Because before we throw Naruto into the mix, we need to understand exactly what kind of fire he's playing with. But for now, remember this. The 8 gates aren't just a power-up. They're a philosophy. They represent the willingness to give everything, even your life, for your comrades. And if Naruto Uzumaki had been given that philosophy from the start, then the story of Naruto as we know it, every battle, every friendship, every sacrifice, would never be the same again. Before we can really explore Naruto using the 8 gates, we need to go back and carefully understand what they actually are in the original story. Because the gates weren't just some flashy trick thrown into the series for cool fight scenes. They are rooted in the very philosophy of what it means to be a shinobi. They embody sacrifice, discipline, and the idea that true strength doesn't come from bloodlines or gifts, but from raw determination and the willingness to go beyond limits. Let's begin with the basics. In the Naruto universe, the human body has a chakra circulatory system, something like a network of channels and points that regulate energy flow. This system has natural limiters built in, which prevent too much chakra from flooding the body at once. Those limiters are what we call the 8 gates. They act as safety valves, protecting the body from tearing itself apart under strain. When a shinobi forces open one of these gates, they bypass those safety measures, allowing chakra to flow at an unnatural rate. The result is explosive bursts of speed, strength, and power, but the cost is immediate and brutal. Torn muscles, shattered bones, and sometimes irreversible damage. Each of the 8 gates is located along the body's chakra pathway, and each unlocks progressively higher levels of ability, along with progressively higher risks. The first gate, the Gate of Opening, is located in the brain and releases the brain's limiters on physical strain. The second, the Gate of Healing, floods the body with energy that can temporarily repair fatigue. The third and fourth, the Gates of Life and Pain, boosts speed and strength to insane levels, causing visible changes like the skin reddening and veins bulging. The fifth, the Gate of Limit, allows power so great that even seasoned shinobi can be overwhelmed. By the time you reach the 6th, the Gate of View, and the 7th, the Gate of Wonder, you are essentially a superhuman, capable of moves like the morning peacock and the daytime tiger. And finally, the 8th gate, the Gate of Death, unlocks power that rivals gods, but the user's life burns away as the price. Now let's look at how Kishimoto used this power in the story. The first real demonstration comes from Rock Lee during the Chunin exams. Up to this point, Lee had been portrayed as a hard-working underdog, someone who couldn't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, relying only on taijutsu. When he faced Gaara in the preliminary rounds, the audience expected him to lose. Gaara had his sand defense, something no one could penetrate. Lee, on the other hand, was just a martial artist. But then, Guy gave him permission, and Lee opened the first, the second, the third, and the fourth gates. Suddenly, the underdog was moving faster than anyone could see, landing blows that even Gaara's sand couldn't block. For a few shining minutes, Lee wasn't just keeping up, he was dominating. But the toll was immediate. His muscles tore, his body collapsed, and even though he fought bravely, he couldn't finish the battle. That fight established the tone of the gates. Incredible power, matched by incredible sacrifice. The second and most famous demonstration came much later. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Might Guy opened all 8 gates to face Madara Uchiha in his Ten Tails Jinchuriki form. By then, Madara was essentially a god, wielding powers that could reshape the battlefield with a glance. And yet, when Guy opened the 8th gate, he became Night Guy, a warrior whose speed and strength warped the very air around him. His kicks bent space, his strikes obliterated Madara's body, and for a moment, it seemed like Guy might actually win. That moment became legendary, because it showed that even without bloodlines, without tailed beasts, without Sage of Six Paths power, a human being could still rise to that level through sheer training and sacrifice. Guy nearly killed Madara. The only reason he survived was because Naruto and the Sage's power intervened. So those are the 2 big examples. But the gates also appear in smaller ways. Kakashi mentions them early on when explaining Lee's training. Guy occasionally teases his own ability to use them, long before the war arc, and Lee himself demonstrates partial mastery in other arcs, showing that the gates are not just a one-time trick, but an entire fighting style. Now, why are the gates so important in Naruto's philosophy? Because they are the ultimate equalizer. The series often focuses on bloodlines, the Uchiha with their Sharingan, the Hyuga with their Byakugan, the Senju with their natural vitality. These clans inherit power by birth, but the gates spit in the face of that idea. They say that any shinobi, no matter their heritage, can reach the level of legends if they are willing to endure the training and the pain. That's why Rock Lee, who had no talent for ninjutsu or genjutsu, became such a beloved character. His use of the gates showed us that hard work really could rival genius. Now let's break down the mechanics of the gates a little deeper, because this matters for when we later apply them to Naruto. The first gate, the Gate of Opening, removes the brain's control over muscle strength, allowing the user to access their full potential. Normally, our brains stop us from using 100% of our muscle fibers at once because it would tear the body apart. By opening this gate, you temporarily unlock that ability, making every punch and kick far stronger than normal. The second gate, the Gate of Healing, floods the body with chakra that recovers fatigue, essentially giving the user a second wind. Combined with the first gate, this already makes a shinobi feel unstoppable for a short time. The third, the Gate of Life, increases blood flow and strength further, causing the skin to turn red from the strain. The fourth, the Gate of Pain, pushes this even further, boosting speed to levels that most normal eyes can't follow. This is where we first saw Rock Lee reach his Hidden Lotus level against Gaara. The fifth gate, the Gate of Limit, allows the user to go beyond what the body can normally endure, launching attacks so fast that they seem to teleport. The sixth, the Gate of View, not only boosts speed and strength, but also enhances perception, letting the user react with almost precognitive awareness. This is where techniques like Morning Peacock come in, a blinding storm of punches that ignite the air itself. The seventh, the Gate of Wonder, takes the body to near godlike levels. This is where Guy used the Daytime Tiger, a compressed blast of air pressure that explodes like a bomb. At this level, the user is no longer fighting as a human, but as a natural disaster. And finally, the eighth gate, the Gate of Death. When opened, the user's body is flooded with so much energy that their blood evaporates from the heat. Their skin burns, and their lifespan is reduced to minutes. But in exchange, their power eclipses almost anything in the world. Night Guy's kick bent space itself. The technique is so fast and so destructive that even Madara, in his Ten Tails God form, admitted he would have died if not for his immortality. Understanding this, we see why the gates are treated with such reverence in the story. They're not just a trump card. They are a philosophy of sacrifice, a last resort that only the most dedicated and selfless shinobi would ever consider using. Now, let's ask the question, what does this mean for Naruto? Because if we apply this system to him, we need to consider how his own powers interact. Naruto already had incredible chakra reserves. He already had the stamina of the Uzumaki clan. He already had Kurama, a source of nearly infinite energy. If he added the gates on top of that, his bursts of power would be magnified to absurd levels. But at the same time, the cost would be magnified too. His body would still tear. His muscles would still break. Even with Kurama's healing, we have to ask, could Naruto really survive repeated use of the higher gates without destroying himself? That's the tension we'll explore later. But in this chapter, the point is clear. The gates aren't just another technique. They are a symbol. They represent the pinnacle of what a human can achieve without shortcuts, without destiny, without divine gifts. They are the embodiment of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that's why giving them to Naruto is such a radical change. Because Naruto's entire journey is about going from underdog to hero, proving that even the most unlikely kid could become Hokage. With the gates, that journey is accelerated. It changes his role from scrappy underdog to terrifying prodigy. It changes how his peers view him, how his enemies fear him, and how his body pays the price. So as we leave this chapter, let's hold on to this thought. The gates are not free. They are never free. Every time Rock Lee used them, he suffered. Every time Guy used them, he risked his life. If Naruto used them, the story would be one of incredible victories, but also incredible costs. His path would be paved with even more pain than before. And that is where we pick up next. In Chapter 3, we'll start imagining Naruto's training arc reimagined. We'll place him under Guy's mentorship, alongside Rock Lee. We'll ask, how would Naruto's early years change if he learned to open even the first two gates? What would the Chunin exams look like with a gate-using Naruto stepping into the ring? And what kind of legend would he become if, instead of hiding behind Kurama's power, he pushed his own body to the edge from the very start? For now, remember this. The 8 gates are not a gift. They are a curse disguised as power. And if Naruto ever learned them, then his story and the story of the shinobi world would never be the same. Now that we understand what the 8 gates are and how they worked in canon, it's time to drop Naruto into that system. Let's imagine an alternate timeline where Naruto, instead of just stumbling through the academy with his shadow clone jutsu, ends up on a completely different training path, one that pushes him into contact with Might Guy and the disciplines of the gates. First, let's think about the context of Naruto's academy days. In canon, Naruto was considered the dead last student. He couldn't perform the clone jutsu. He barely paid attention in class, and his reputation as the Nine Tails host made him an outcast. Iruka was the only teacher who really believed in him, but even then, Naruto was isolated from serious mentorship until he became a genin under Kakashi. Now imagine if someone like Guy noticed him earlier. Why Guy? Because Guy is the one character who truly understands what it means to take a kid with no natural gifts and build them into a powerhouse. He did it with Rock Lee. And when you think about Naruto's raw energy, his refusal to quit, and his tendency to throw himself into physical training, he actually shares a lot in common with Lee. So in this alternate universe, let's say Guy crosses paths with Naruto around the time of the Academy's later years. Maybe Naruto is caught sneaking into the training grounds, trying to practice taijutsu alone. Maybe Guy sees him pushing himself with endless laps around the village. Or maybe Lee himself suggests that Naruto has the flames of youth worthy of attention. Either way, Guy becomes intrigued. He doesn't necessarily take Naruto on as a full student. After all, Naruto's team assignment with Kakashi still matters for the overall story. But he offers him supplemental training. Think of it like a mentorship on the side. The same way Jiraiya later trained Naruto, while Kakashi was still technically his sensei. And this is where Naruto gets introduced to the philosophy of the gates. At first, Naruto would struggle like crazy. Remember, the gates require immense physical conditioning. They're not something you unlock by just wanting it. Lee had to go through endless push-ups, squats, sprints, and sparring matches until his body could even handle the strain of opening the lower gates. Naruto, being Naruto, would approach this recklessly. He'd throw himself into training so hard that he'd collapse, get back up, and do it again. The thing is, unlike Lee, Naruto has the healing factor of the Uzumaki lineage and eventually Kurama's chakra working in his favor. So while Lee's recovery took days or weeks, Naruto could bounce back much faster. This means he could progress through the fundamentals of gate training at a much faster pace, even if he didn't realize why his recovery was so abnormal. Now picture early Naruto learning to open the first and second gates. At first, it would be wild and uncontrolled. He'd push too far, collapse in exhaustion, and wake up in the hospital bed with Iruka yelling at him. But slowly, under Guy's guidance, he'd learn how to channel that energy, how to treat his body as a weapon without breaking it every single time. This would change Naruto's reputation in the academy almost immediately. Instead of being the kid who couldn't perform the clone jutsu, he'd be the kid who suddenly started showing bursts of insane physical ability. Imagine him in sparring matches, moving faster than anyone expected, landing blows that no one thought he was capable of. He'd still be clumsy, still loud, still brash, but the whispers around the academy would change. He wouldn't just be the Nine-Tails brat. He'd be the weird kid who trained with Guy and had terrifying stamina. By the time Naruto graduates and becomes a genin, his base level would already be significantly higher than canon. He wouldn't just rely on shadow clones to get through missions. He'd be using gates-enhanced bursts of speed and strength, surprising even Kakashi during the bell test. Think about that moment in canon when Naruto charged Kakashi and immediately got taken down. In this version, Naruto might still lose, because Kakashi is Kakashi, but Kakashi would raise an eyebrow when Naruto suddenly moved faster than expected. That would set the tone. This Naruto is reckless, yes, but also dangerous in ways his canon self wasn't yet. Now, let's fast forward to the Land of Waves arc, Team 7's first real mission. In canon, Naruto's biggest contributions were his determination not to run away, his clever use of shadow clones, and his emotional growth from protecting Tazuna and Heku's story. In this reimagined version, Naruto has one more tool in his arsenal: the gates. When Team 7 faces Zabuza, Naruto probably wouldn't use them yet. It's too early, and Guy would have drilled into him that the gates are a last resort. But when the battle with Haku happens inside the ice mirrors, things get interesting. In canon, Naruto struggled until Kurama's chakra burst out, giving him the speed and power to overwhelm Haku. But imagine if Naruto had already unlocked the second or even third gate. Instead of relying on Kurama's chakra, he might have tapped into the gates during that desperate moment when Sasuke falls. The result? Naruto's body would suddenly move faster than the mirrors could track, landing blows on Heiku in a way similar to what we saw with Lee versus Gaara. This wouldn't eliminate Kurama's role entirely. The fox would still stir, still lend energy, but the combination of gates and the Nine Tails would create a terrifying synergy. Naruto's punches would shatter Haku's defenses, but afterward, his body would collapse from the strain. Sakura and Sasuke might see firsthand the price of the gates when Naruto wakes up covered in bruises, muscles screaming in pain. This single change would ripple through the early story. For one, Kakashi would notice. He'd recognize that Naruto was dabbling in one of the most dangerous arts in the shinobi world. He'd probably confront Guy about it, asking why he thought it was wise to train Naruto in such a risky technique. Guy, of course, would defend Naruto's spirit, saying that he had the willpower to handle it. Kakashi would remain skeptical, but also impressed. And for Sasuke? Watching Naruto unlock bursts of power through sheer training, not Sharingan, not heritage, not genius, would sting. This is where the rivalry would intensify much earlier. In canon, Sasuke felt threatened once Naruto started tapping into Kurama. Here, he'd feel it even sooner, because Naruto would be surpassing him through brute effort. Now let's reimagine the Chunin exams with this setup. In canon, Naruto won his matches through cleverness, unpredictability, and sheer determination. But here, he has an extra weapon. Against Kiba, he might still use his trickster tactics, but once he opens the first gate, his physical speed would overwhelm even Akamaru's combination attacks. The crowd would gasp, the proctors would raise their eyebrows, and whispers would spread. Is Naruto a taijutsu prodigy? Against Neji, the story would be even more dramatic. In canon, Naruto defeated Neji by enduring the gentle fist, digging deep into Kurama's chakra, and landing a decisive blow with his unbreakable will. In this version, imagine Naruto opening the second, or even third gate against Neji. His speed would make it harder for Neji to land precise strikes. His strength would let him power through gentle fist attacks. The fight would still be close. Neji's Byakugan and technique are overwhelming, but when Naruto bursts through with Gates' enhanced blows, he'd prove that destiny can be challenged, not just through willpower, but through raw, earned strength. That moment would humiliate Neji even more, and the message about hard work versus fate would be delivered with even greater force. Then we get to the fight with Gaara. In canon, Naruto relied on summoning jutsu and his bond with Gamabunta to protect the village, but with the gates, the battle could be much more explosive. Naruto might open the fourth gate in desperation, moving so fast and hitting so hard that he actually cracks through Gaara's sand armor by himself. Imagine the crowd watching Naruto move with Rock Lee's speed, except powered by Kurama's stamina and his own reckless courage. The invasion of Konoha would still happen. Orochimaru would still fight the third Hokage, but Naruto's legend would grow faster. He'd no longer just be the brat who got lucky with a giant toad summon. He'd be the kid who unleashed a forbidden taijutsu style that rivaled Rock Lee himself. Of course, this early use would come at a price. Naruto's body would be shredded after the Gaara fight. He might spend days in the hospital, unable to move. This would reinforce the lesson that the gates aren't free, and it would plant the seed of fear in his friends. Every time Naruto uses this power, he risks his body more than anyone else. Sakura might worry about him constantly. Sasuke might feel his own inferiority deepening, and Kakashi might start to wonder if Naruto was on a path that could kill him long before he reached Hokage. Now let's move into the Sasuke retrieval arc. In Canyon, Naruto chased Sasuke with raw determination and Kurama's chakra bursts. Here, he'd have another layer. Their battle at the Valley of the End would be even more brutal. Naruto might open the fourth, or even fifth gate to keep up with Sasuke's Chidori and Sharingan enhanced movements. The sheer physical clash of Rasengan, Chidori, and Gates enhanced Taijutsu would tear the battlefield apart. But again, the price would be steep. Naruto might collapse before the fight even ends, his body broken by both Sasuke's power and his own overuse of the gates. That would set up a tragic tone. Naruto is getting stronger, yes, but he's also breaking himself faster. By the time Shippuden begins, this alternate Naruto would already have a reputation. The village would see him not just as the Jinchuriki, but as a dangerous, reckless gate user. Some would admire him, others would fear him. Guy and Lee would probably treat him like a comrade, part of their Flames of Youth circle. Jiraiya, on the other hand, would scold him constantly for risking his life too easily, and Tsunade, as a medical ninja, would be horrified by the damage he was inflicting on his body. This sets the stage for his Shippuden growth to look very different. Instead of just focusing on Rasengan variations and Kurama control, Naruto would now have to balance his new techniques with the physical danger of the gates. Every mission would carry the tension. Will Naruto risk his body again? Will he open a gate when things get desperate? His teammates would never quite know what to expect, and his enemies would begin to whisper about a blonde boy who moves like lightning and burns with a terrifying aura. So to sum up this chapter, Naruto's early training, reimagined with the 8 gates, turns him from the Academy's dead last into a dangerous prodigy much earlier. He doesn't stop being reckless, he doesn't stop being loud, and he doesn't stop dreaming of becoming Hokage. But now, every step of his journey carries an extra layer of danger. His victories become more spectacular, but his wounds become deeper. His rivals feel threatened sooner, his friends worry more, and his mentors argue about whether he's on the right path. And that, in many ways, makes this story even more Naruto-like. Because at its core, Naruto's journey was always about pushing past limits, no matter the pain. The 8 gates are the ultimate symbol of that philosophy, and if Naruto embraced them from the start, then his story would be brighter, more explosive, and far more tragic all at once. In next chapter, we'll dive into the Chunin exams and the Konoha Crush arc reimagined in full detail. We'll explore exactly how Naruto's gates would alter the flow of those iconic fights, from Neji's destiny-breaking defeat to Gaara's rampage through the village. The exams were the moment Naruto truly began to rise as a shinobi in the eyes of others, and with the 8 gates in play, that rise becomes something legendary. The Chunin exams were one of the most important turning points in the entire Naruto story. They were the stage where rookies from across nations gathered to test their skills, the stage where rivalries were born, where friendships deepened, and where legends first began to form. For Naruto, the exams were the moment when the world first began to notice him, not just as the Nine-Tails host, not just as the class clown, but as a shinobi in his own right. Now imagine those same exams if Naruto had been secretly training under Might Guy, unlocking the lower gates. Every single major fight changes, every single rivalry escalates, and the invasion of Konoha itself takes on a completely new tone. Let's start with the written test. In canon, Naruto almost failed because he couldn't answer any of the questions. His determination not to give up became the thing that saved him. In this alternate version, that part doesn't change. Naruto is still Naruto, still terrible at academics, still scratching his head at every question, but his confidence is higher. Because he's been training under Guy, because he knows he has power others don't fully understand, he sits in that exam hall with a different energy. When Ibiki announces the rules, Naruto's fist clenches, not just in desperation, but in determination. He's reckless, he's loud, and yes, he still screams about never giving up, but this time, when he does, a few heads turn differently. Instead of mocking him, Some of the other students whisper about how they saw him moving with terrifying speed. In the preliminaries, the legend of the gates has already started to grow, and Naruto's presence feels heavier. Now we move into the Forest of Death. In Canyon, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura are tested to their limits by Orochimaru. Naruto shows courage, but it's mostly Kurama's chakra that saves him. In this reimagining, Naruto has another card to play. When Orochimaru first appears, Sasuke is frozen in fear. Sakura is trembling. Naruto, reckless as always, charges forward. In canon, he's nearly killed. But here, in desperation, he taps into the second gate. Suddenly his speed spikes. His punch actually lands on Orochimaru, forcing the Sannin to step back in surprise. It doesn't do much damage. Orochimaru is far too powerful. But the fact that Naruto forced him to move makes the scene far scarier. Orochimaru smirks, intrigued. So the Jinchuriki is dabbling in the 8 gates. Fascinating. From that moment on, Orochimaru isn't just interested in Sasuke. He marks Naruto as dangerous too, someone who could burn himself out if pushed too far. That small moment changes everything. Sasuke sees Naruto land a blow that even he couldn't have managed, and the seed of rivalry digs deeper. Then we reach the preliminary matches. Naruto versus Kiba. In canon, Naruto won with clever tricks and his sheer refusal to quit. Here, it plays out differently. At first, Kiba and Akamaru overwhelm Naruto with their speed and coordination. The crowd laughs when Naruto gets knocked down, but Naruto grins, wipes the blood from his mouth, and mutters, "All right, time to get serious." He opens the first gate. Suddenly, his movements sharpen. His counterattack is faster, his punches heavier. Kiba is shocked as he's thrown back by sheer force. When Naruto adds a few shadow clones to the mix, all moving at gate-enhanced speed, the battlefield becomes chaos. Kiba is overwhelmed not by tricks alone, but by the raw power Naruto unleashes. He still wins in his classic scrappy fashion, but this time, the crowd sees a flash of something terrifying. The kid with the 9 tails also has the power of the gates. Whispers spread. Proctors exchange nervous glances, and Guy, watching from the stands, silently nods with pride. But the biggest changes come in the major fights. Naruto versus Neji. This was the fight that defined the theme of destiny versus hard work. In canon, Naruto shocked everyone by defeating Neji through sheer determination, tapping into Kurama's chakra and outlasting Neji's gentle fist. In this version, Naruto enters the arena with an edge. He knows Neji is strong. He knows the Byakugan can track movements. But Naruto has been training with Guy, and Guy has warned him, the gates can break through even the sharpest defenses, but only if you're willing to endure the pain. The fight begins similarly. Neji closes Naruto's Tenketsu points, mocking him about fate and destiny. Naruto struggles, falling to the ground. The crowd believes it's over. Then, Naruto opens the second gate. His skin reddens, veins bulge, and suddenly he's moving faster than Neji's eyes expect. A strike lands on Neji's jaw, another on his chest. For the first time, Neji is pushed back. The crowd gasps. Hinata watches with wide eyes. The Hyuga elders whisper nervously. Naruto, battered and bleeding, laughs. "I told you, fate doesn't decide who I am." Neji retaliates, landing gentle fist strikes that send waves of pain through Naruto's body. But Naruto pushes harder, opening the third gate. The speed and power spike again. Every step, Naruto takes tears at his muscles, but every punch shakes the arena. In the final clash, Naruto doesn't just rely on Kurama's chakra. He throws a Rasengan, enhanced by gate-level speed, directly into Neji's chest. The impact sends Neji flying across the arena floor, unconscious. Naruto collapses immediately afterward, muscles screaming in agony, but the victory is undeniable. The crowd explodes. the message about destiny versus hard work hits even harder, because Naruto didn't win with a borrowed power from Kurama. He won with his own blood and training, with the forbidden technique that represents pure effort. That single fight would redefine how the village sees Naruto. He's no longer just the unpredictable loudmouth. He's the boy who combines the stamina of the Uzumaki with the forbidden gates of Gai. The whispers grow louder. Is this child a prodigy of taijutsu? Is he a threat to his own body? Is he destined for greatness or an early grave? Now let's turn to Rock Lee versus Gaara. In canon, this was one of the most iconic fights in the series. Lee opened the gates and nearly defeated Gaara, but his body was destroyed in the process. In this reimagining, Naruto is watching from the stands with a completely different perspective. He understands what Lee is doing, because he is trained the same way. When Lee opens the fifth gate and launches his hidden lotus, Naruto is not just amazed, he is terrified, because he knows what that pain feels like. He knows how much it costs. Watching Lee collapse, bones broken, Naruto clenches his fists. In his heart, he vows that he will not let Lee's sacrifice be meaningless. If he ever faces Gaara, he will fight with the same spirit, but he will find a way to endure. And that brings us to Naruto versus Gaara during the invasion of Konoha. In canon, Naruto summoned Gamabunta and used Kurama's chakra to battle Shukaku. Here, the fight escalates in an even more dramatic way. When Gaara transforms into his half-Shukaku form and attacks, Naruto tries shadow clones, tries Rasengan, but nothing works. Desperate, he opens the fourth gate. His body screams in pain, but his speed skyrockets. He weaves through Gaara's sand defenses, landing blow after blow. Cracks form in the sand armor. Gaara, for the first time, feels fear. What is this power, he mutters, eyes wide. But it's not enough. Gaara's transformation continues, and Shukaku emerges. This is when Naruto, battered and bleeding, combines everything. The fourth gate, his shadow clones, and his bond with Gamabunta. Imagine the scene, Gamabunta clashing with Shukaku, while dozens of Naruto clones, all moving at gate-enhanced speed, swarm Gaara's body, distracting him long enough for Naruto to land the final blow. The moment when Naruto headbutts Gaara, screaming about bonds and friendship, becomes even more powerful. Because now, it's not just his willpower carrying him, it's his willingness to break his own body to protect his friends and his village. After the battle, Naruto collapses completely. Unlike canon, where he's just exhausted, here his muscles are shredded, his chakra coils strained. Tsunade hasn't yet arrived, so the medical team struggles to stabilize him. This leaves a lasting impression on everyone. To some, Naruto is a hero. To others, he's reckless and terrifying. And to Sasuke, it's a slap in the face. He thought he was the genius, the one destined to surpass everyone. But Naruto has stolen the spotlight again, not just with Kurama, but with the 8 gates. The seeds of jealousy that lead to his defection are watered even earlier. Meanwhile, the third Hokage's battle with Orochimaru still unfolds. The invasion still leaves scars on Konoha, but in the midst of that chaos, the legend of Naruto Uzumaki grows larger. He is no longer an anonymous genin. He is a boy whose power makes even Jonin uneasy. He is a boy who fights like Rock Lee and Might Guy, but heals like an Uzumaki and fights with the will of fire. The combination makes him something completely new, something unpredictable, and something dangerous. The aftermath of the invasion sets the stage for the rest of the story. The council begins to whisper. Should Naruto be restricted from training further? If he keeps using the gates, will his body last to adulthood? Tsunade, when she arrives later, will clash with Guy over whether Naruto should continue down this path. And Sasuke, watching from the shadows, begins to feel the pressure more intensely. If Naruto can use the gates, then Sasuke must chase even greater power, which makes Orochimaru's temptation even stronger. So, in summary, The Chunin exams reimagined with the Eight Gates turn Naruto's rise from underdog to hero into something far more dramatic. His fights against Kiba, Neji, and Gaara are no longer just clever tricks or lucky breaks. They are legendary clashes that showcase his willingness to burn his body for victory. His reputation grows earlier, his rivalry with Sasuke deepens faster, and the invasion of Konoha becomes not just Orochimaru's attempt to destroy the village, but also the crucible that forges Naruto's legend as a gate user. We'll move into Naruto's growth in Shippuden. We'll explore how his gates training evolves alongside Jiraiya's mentorship, how the combination of Rasengan, Sage Mode, and the gates creates an entirely new fighting style, and how his battles against enemies like Orochimaru and Pain are completely reshaped by this dangerous power. When Shippuden begins, Naruto returns to the village after 2.5 years of training with Jiraiya. In canon, that training gave him a bigger arsenal of shadow clone tricks, more control over the Rasengan, and the beginnings of understanding Kurama's chakra. But in this alternate timeline, where Naruto has been learning the Eight Gates since his Genin days, those 2.5 years look very different. He doesn't just train in ninjutsu with Jiraiya. He also pushes his body further and further along Gai's path of taijutsu mastery. The result is a Naruto who, by the time he comes home, is both more dangerous and more fragile. Let's start with the reunion arc. When Naruto first shows up again in the village, everyone notices he's taller, stronger, more mature. In this version, the change is even more striking. His movements are sharper. His aura feels heavier. When he bumps fists with Kakashi during the Bell Test rerun, Kakashi senses not only Kurama's presence, but the faint echo of the gates inside Naruto. When Naruto bursts into speed with shadow clones, Kakashi realizes immediately, this boy has combined clone tactics with gate-level enhancements. Even Kakashi has to take him more seriously. Sakura, who already notices Naruto's growth in canon, is even more stunned. She saw him nearly collapse from the gates during the Chunin exams. Now he's back, able to control them without falling apart instantly. For Sasuke, who witnesses Naruto's growth later during the Tenchi Bridge arc, the impact is devastating. The gap feels wider than ever. Now, let's dive into the first big mission. Rescuing Gaara. In canon, Naruto's fight against Deidara and the Akatsuki was fueled by desperation and bursts of Kurama's chakra. In this reimagining, when Deidara flees with Gaara's body, Naruto doesn't just chase with clones. He opens the second or third gate mid-chase, sprinting across terrain with blinding speed. For a moment, even Deidara is shocked. He's not just a Jinchuriki, Deidara mutters. What is this insane speed? Naruto actually closes the gap faster, and the battle becomes more dangerous for both sides. But once again, the price hits afterward. Naruto collapses from pushing his gates too far, forcing Kakashi to cover for him. The team saves Gaara the same way, but the Akatsuki leave with one more note in their files. Naruto Uzumaki is not just the Nine Tails. He's something else entirely. Then comes the Tenchi Bridge arc, Naruto versus Orochimaru. In canon, this was the fight where Naruto lost control, sprouting 4 tails and nearly killing his allies. In this alternate version, the moment of desperation looks a little different. When Naruto sees Sasuke with Orochimaru, rage floods him. But instead of instantly losing control to Kurama, Naruto tries the gates first. He opens the 4th, then the 5th. His skin reddens, his body shakes, but his speed rockets to levels Orochimaru didn't expect. For a few glorious moments, Naruto fights Orochimaru with pure taijutsu and Rasengan, matching his strikes with gate-fueled ferocity. The bridge cracks under their blows. Sakura and Yamato watch in shock as Naruto's fists ignite the air. But then the price. Naruto's muscles tear. Blood spills from his lips. He stumbles, and that's when Kurama seizes the opening. Just like in canon, the Four Tails cloak erupts. But now, It's layered on top of a body, already shredded by the gates. The result is even more horrific. Yamato has to suppress not only the fox, but also the physical collapse of Naruto's body. When Naruto wakes up later, the guilt is worse than canon. He doesn't just fear Kurama, he fears himself. He knows the gates make him stronger, but he also knows they make him reckless, and that tension will follow him through the rest of Shippuden. Next comes Naruto's training with Kakashi and Yamato to learn Wind Release, Rasen Shuriken. In canon, Naruto used shadow clones to speed up the process, turning years of training into days. Here, the addition of the gates changes the grind. Naruto uses the first and second gates during his training, pushing his body to handle larger amounts of chakra and faster clone work. The result is an even more explosive Rasen Shuriken, but also a higher risk of injury. The scene where Naruto throws the Rasen Shuriken at Kakuzu becomes even more dramatic. With the gates active, Naruto blitzes into position at blinding speed, launching the jutsu before Kakuzu can fully react. The explosion is massive, the victory decisive. But when the dust clears, Naruto collapses harder than before, his body racked not just by the recoil of the Rasen Shuriken, but by the gates amplifying the strain. Tsunade is furious. She warns Naruto, if you keep fighting this way, you won't live long enough to become Hokage. Naruto, as always, smiles through the pain and says, that's fine, as long as I protect my friends. Now we move to one of the most important arcs, Naruto versus Pain. In canon, this was the battle where Naruto mastered Sage Mode and proved himself as the village's savior. In this version, the gates add an entirely new dimension. When Pain invades Konoha, Naruto arrives in Sage Mode as before, throwing Rasen Shuriken and battling the Six Paths. But when Sage Mode runs out, when the battle reaches its desperate peak, Naruto doesn't just rely on Kurama. He opens the sixth gate. Imagine the scene. The rubble of Konoha, Pain's body circling, and suddenly Naruto's skin flushes red. Steam rising as his chakra surges. His punches become blurs. His kicks send shockwaves through the battlefield. He weaves Sage Mode reflexes with gate-enhanced speed, creating a hybrid fighting style that overwhelms even the paths of Pain. The villagers, hidden in the ruins, watch in awe as Naruto fights like both a sage and a gate warrior. For a moment, it looks like he might win purely on his own. But then, the cost hits. His muscles tear mid-fight, forcing him to stumble. That's when Pain pins him down and drags him toward Nagato's plan. Kurama roars inside, offering more power. The moment with Minato, Naruto's father, still happens, but now it carries even heavier weight. Minato sees not just the Nine Tails eating away at his son, but also the physical destruction Naruto inflicts on himself through the gates. He warns him, you carry too much on your body, Naruto. If you don't learn balance, you'll die before your dream comes true. That line becomes Naruto's burden moving forward, because now he has to balance Sage Mode, Kurama's power, and the 8 gates. 3 different systems, each powerful, each dangerous. And the boy who never gives up wants to master all of them. Next comes the 5 Kage Summit arc. In canon, Naruto begged the Raikage to spare Sasuke, and eventually collapsed under the stress of his ideals. In this reimagining, the scene where Naruto kneels before the Raikage becomes even more emotional. The Raikage already respects taijutsu users like Guy. When Naruto bows and begs, bruises visible from his training, the Raikage sees not just a boy pleading, but a warrior who has burned his own body for his comrades. The Raikage doesn't change his mind about Sasuke, but he acknowledges Naruto with a bit more respect. You've inherited the spirit of the 8 gates, he says gruffly. Don't waste it. That recognition stings, because it's also a reminder that Naruto's path is unsustainable. And then the war begins. This is where Gate Naruto truly shines, but also where the danger becomes unbearable. On the battlefield, Naruto doesn't just use clones with Kurama's chakra. He also uses gates in bursts, blitzing across lines of white Zetsu and saving shinobi with blinding speed. The Alliance sees him as a whirlwind, a blur of orange and steam tearing through the enemy ranks. But after each burst, he collapses, forcing medics to drag him back into the fight. Unlike in Canyon, where Naruto becomes a nearly unstoppable engine once he masters Kurama's chakra, here he burns himself out repeatedly, leaving allies worried that he'll die before the war even ends. The most striking difference comes with his interactions with Might Guy. In canon, Guy is the sole master of the gates, the one who shoulders that burden alone. But in this version, when Guy prepares to open the 8th gate against Madara, Naruto steps forward too. "You don't have to do this alone," Naruto says, his fists shaking. Guy stares at him, eyes wide. "You've learned the gates?" For the first time, Guy realizes that Naruto has walked the same path as Rock Lee and gone even further. Their bond deepens instantly. Guy tells Naruto, "You carry the future of the shinobi world. Don't throw your life away like I will." That moment of mentorship changes everything. When Guy opens the 8th gate and launches Night Guy, Naruto doesn't just watch in awe. He understands the pain, the sacrifice, the cost, and it makes him fight harder than ever afterward. So by the end of Shippuden, what does this reimagined Naruto look like? He's not just the Jinchuriki who mastered Kurama. He's not just the sage who inherited the power of the toads. He's also the gate user who burned his body for his friends. Every battle was brighter, every victory sharper, every wound deeper. His reputation is different too. Instead of being seen only as the child of prophecy, he is seen as the boy who combined 3 impossible powers: the fox, the sage, and the forbidden gates. Some admire him as the greatest of his generation. Others whisper that he might not live long enough to sit in the Hokage's chair. This tension makes Naruto's growth in Shippuden even more compelling. He's stronger, yes, but he's also more tragic. His friends worry constantly. His rivals spiral faster. His mentors argue over whether to stop him. And Naruto himself, the boy who never gives up, keeps smiling, keeps training, keeps pushing past limits, even as his body begs him to stop. That's the essence of this chapter. With the 8 gates, Naruto's Shippuden journey becomes a balancing act between 3 deadly powers. The Rasen Shuriken pushes his chakra control to the edge, Kurama's cloak pushes his emotions to the edge, and the gates push his body to the edge. Every fight is more spectacular, but also more dangerous. And every time Naruto wins, the question hangs heavier. How much more can his body take? Now we get to the heart of this what if. The battles. The moments that define Naruto's journey. The moments we all remember. Naruto standing against pain. Naruto clashing with Sasuke. Naruto facing down the Akatsuki. These fights were already legendary in canon, but with the 8 gates added to the equation, they change in ways that ripple across the entire story. Let's walk through the biggest ones, one by one, and see how this alternate Naruto fights, bleeds, and wins. Let's start with Naruto versus Pain. In canon, this battle was the climax of Naruto's growth. He arrived in Sage Mode, fought brilliantly against the 6 paths, and ultimately saved the village both with power and with words. But imagine that battle with the gates layered on top of Sage Mode. When Naruto arrives on the battlefield and sees the ruins of Konoha, the determination on his face is even sharper. He knows he can't just rely on Sage Mode alone. As the battle rages, Naruto takes down several of the paths with clever tactics. Rasen Shuriken, Clone Feints, Toad Summons. But when Sage Mode runs out, canon Naruto was pinned, overwhelmed, and nearly lost control to Kurama. In this version, before Kurama takes over, Naruto taps into the gates. He opens the 6th. His skin flushes, steam rises, and suddenly his movements sharpen to speeds even Pain didn't anticipate. Imagine him weaving between Shinra Tensei blasts, his fists glowing with sage energy and gate-enhanced speed. Every strike becomes devastating. A single Rasengan, delivered at 6th gate velocity, smashes one of the paths to pieces. But this power isn't free. His body screams in agony. Every step tears his muscles. Every punch leaves fractures in his bones. By the time he closes in on Diva Path, his hands are shaking, his breath ragged. The scene where Pain nails him to the ground with chakra rods still happens, but now it carries more weight. Naruto has burned Sage Mode and the gates. His body is broken. He has nothing left but Kurama. When Kurama's chakra surges, it feels like the only option left. And when Minato appears inside his mind, the conversation shifts. Minato doesn't just warn him about the fox. He warns him about himself. You've pushed your body past its limits, Naruto. You can't win this fight by burning yourself away. You must learn balance, or your dream will consume you. That line becomes the anchor for Naruto moving forward. He isn't just trying to control Kurama. He's trying to master his own recklessness with the gates. The ending with Nagato still happens. Naruto's words still reach him. His ideals still shine through. But the villagers, when they celebrate Naruto as the hero who saved Konoha, see him limping, bruised, and barely able to stand. The whispers grow louder. Will this boy really live long enough to become Hokage? Or will the very techniques that make him great cut his life short? Next, let's move to Naruto versus Sasuke at the Valley of the End, their second great battle. In canon, this was a clash of ideals and powers. Naruto wielding Sage and Kurama, Sasuke wielding the eternal Mangekyo, and later Rinnegan. In this reimagining, the fight becomes even more brutal because Naruto doesn't hold back the gates. Picture it, the Valley of the End. Waterfalls crashing, statues looming. Naruto and Sasuke face each other, both determined to end things once and for all. Sasuke unleashes his Susanoo, arrows flying with devastating force. Naruto responds with Shadow Clones and Rasen Shuriken, but as the battle drags on, he realizes it's not enough. He opens the 7th gate. The air vibrates with pressure. His aura bursts into green flames mixed with Kurama's orange chakra. His movements blur into near invisibility. When Sasuke's Susanoo swings a massive blade, Naruto appears on top of it in an instant, slamming a Rasengan straight into the armor and cracking it. The crowd of clones swarm, moving with gate-level speed, overwhelming even Sasuke's sharing and perception. For the first time, Sasuke feels outpaced. His pride shatters. He screams in rage, pouring more chakra into his attacks, summoning lightning dragons and Amaterasu flames. Naruto counters with Daytime Tiger, the 7th gate's air compression strike, combined with a Kurama-powered Rasengan. The resulting explosion tears through the valley, sending shockwaves for miles. But here's the key difference. Naruto's body can't handle it. By the time they reach the final clash, Rasengan versus Chidori, Naruto's arms are shredded, his muscles torn, his vision blurring. The fact that he still pushes forward, still refuses to let Sasuke go, becomes even more powerful. Their final punch lands, both collapsing, bloodied and broken. And when they lie side by side, Naruto's words about bonds and friendship cut deeper, because Sasuke has watched Naruto literally destroy himself to save him. That makes Sasuke's surrender feel even heavier. He doesn't just realize Naruto is stronger. He realizes Naruto is willing to die for him. Now let's go back and reimagine Naruto against the Akatsuki earlier in Shippuden. Naruto versus Kakuzu, for example. In Kanon, Naruto mastered the Rasen Shuriken and used it to finish Kakuzu in dramatic fashion. In this alternate version, Naruto enhances his Rasen Shuriken with gate-level speed. Instead of throwing it once and struggling, he blitzes Kakuzu at 6th gate speed, Rasen Shuriken in hand. Kakuzu's masks don't even have time to react. The explosion is enormous, the destruction undeniable. But when the smoke clears, Naruto is on the ground, muscles torn from both the Rasen Shuriken's backlash and the gate's strain. Kakashi and Yamato have to drag him away, medics rushing in. The message is clear: Naruto wins battles faster, but he pays a heavier price each time. What about Naruto versus Itachi? In Canyon, Naruto never fought Itachi seriously until later, and even then, Itachi wasn't truly trying to kill him. But imagine a scenario where Itachi tested Naruto earlier. With the gates, Naruto could momentarily blitz past the illusions of genjutsu, using pure speed to close the gap. But Itachi, with his Sharingan, would see the strain on Naruto's body instantly. "Your path will kill you, Naruto," he would say, his tone heavy. "You burn yourself brighter than anyone, but flames that burn too hot die too quickly." That line, coming from Itachi, would haunt Naruto moving forward. Now let's reimagine Naruto against Obito in the war. In canon, Naruto used Kurama's chakra cloak to match Obito's Kamui phase tricks. Here, Naruto also uses gates and bursts. At 6th or 7th gate speed, he could actually pressure Obito, forcing him to phase constantly just to avoid blows. Kurama inside Naruto would protest, "Fool, your body can't take this pace." But Naruto, stubborn as ever, would push on. The fight becomes not just one of strategy, but of endurance. Can Naruto outlast Obito before his own body collapses? That tension makes the battle even sharper. But the most important reimagined fight of all is Naruto's role against Madara and Kaguya in the war. In canon, Guy was the one who stole the spotlight, opening the 8th gate and nearly killing Madara. Naruto watched in awe, then inherited the Sage of Six Paths power. But in this version, Naruto has already been walking the same path as Guy. When Guy opens the 8th gate, Naruto doesn't just watch, he understands exactly what Guy is doing. He sees the pain, the sacrifice, the inevitability, and he's ready to step in. Imagine Guy launching Night Guy, his kick bending space, slamming Madara into the ground. Naruto, already in 7th gate, rushes beside him. Together, they fight as twin flames of sacrifice. Guy with his final breaths, Naruto with his youthful recklessness. For a moment, Madara is completely overwhelmed. The battlefield shakes with their combined blows. The Alliance watches, stunned, as two humans, not gods, not Jinchuriki, just men with bodies of flesh, bring Madara to his knees. But then Guy's body begins to crumble, and Naruto nearly collapses too. This is when the Sage of Six Paths appears to grant Naruto new power. The contrast is sharper now. The Sage doesn't just give Naruto strength because he's the child of prophecy. He gives him strength because he sees Naruto has already carried the spirit of sacrifice, already walked the path of the gates to the brink of death. The Sage says, "You have proven that the will of fire burns strongest in you. You have risked your life again and again for others. I grant you this power, not because you were chosen, but because you chose to suffer for your comrades." That changes everything. Naruto's godlike power in the final arc doesn't feel like destiny handed to him. It feels like the natural reward for a boy who already gave everything. And finally, the fight against Kaguya. In Canyon, it was a battle of strategy and teamwork, with Naruto and Sasuke combining powers to seal her. In this version, Naruto occasionally taps into the lower gates even during that god-level fight, showing that he hasn't abandoned his roots. When Kaguya unleashes gravity dimensions or lava worlds, Naruto opens the 5th or 6th gate to blitz out of danger, dragging allies with him. His body takes damage even in the middle of this cosmic battle, reminding us that no matter how high he rises, Naruto never stops risking his body. When the fight ends and Kaguya is sealed, Naruto collapses not just from chakra exhaustion, but from muscle tears, fractures, and strain from the gates. Even in victory, his body is a battlefield. So what do these rewritten fights tell us? They tell us that Naruto's legend in this alternate timeline isn't just about being the child of prophecy, or the host of the Nine Tails, or the student of Jiraiya. It's about being the boy who mastered three impossible powers: Sage Mode, Kurama, and the Eight Gates, and paid the price for it every time. His battles are brighter, his victories sharper, but his wounds deeper. Every clash leaves scars. Every triumph feels like it might be his last. And that's the beauty of this What If. It doesn't erase the themes of Naruto's story. It amplifies them. Naruto was always about never giving up, about enduring pain for the sake of others, about choosing sacrifice over selfishness. The Eight Gates are simply the perfect embodiment of those ideals. By giving them to Naruto, we see a version of him that shines even brighter, but burns even faster. The Fourth Great Ninja War was already the climax of the Naruto story, a battlefield where every nation united, where legends rose and fell, and where the fate of the entire shinobi world was decided. In canon, Naruto became the centerpiece of the alliance through Kurama's chakra, Sage Mode, and eventually the Sage of Six Paths blessing. But in this alternate timeline, where Naruto has also been training in the Eight Gates, the war becomes something far more volatile. Every moment is sharper, every victory brighter, and every collapse more frightening. Naruto is not just the hero of the alliance, he is its most unstable weapon. Let's start with Naruto's arrival on the battlefield. In canon, this was one of the most triumphant moments. Naruto charging in with Kurama's chakra cloak, clones spreading across the front lines, the alliance finally getting hope. In this version, Naruto arrives the same way, but with an additional twist. When his clones reach different battlefronts, some of them, for just a few bursts, open the first or second gate. Imagine hundreds of Naruto clones, each moving faster than the eye can track, blitzing through waves of white Zetsu. The effect on morale is enormous. Soldiers who were struggling suddenly see orange blurs ripping through enemies like lightning. They whisper, "He's faster than Guy. He's stronger than Lee. He's the hero we've been waiting for." For the first time, the Alliance doesn't just feel like they have a Jinchuriki on their side. They feel like they have a warrior who embodies the pure will of fire. But this also creates new risks. When clones dissipate after burning through the gates, the damage echoes back to the original Naruto. He feels his muscles tearing, his chakra coils straining, even as he keeps fighting. Kurama growls inside him, frustrated. "Idiot, you're pushing your body beyond its limits. My chakra can heal you, but it can't fix everything if you tear yourself apart." Naruto, stubborn as always, just grins. "It doesn't matter. As long as we win, I'll keep going." Now let's reimagine Naruto's clash with the Edo Tensei reanimated shinobi. In canon, these fights were drawn-out struggles that relied heavily on sealing techniques. In this version, Naruto occasionally uses the gates to break through the stalemates. For example, when facing the reanimated Kag, Naruto opens the fifth gate, combining it with a Rasengan to blast through defenses. The sheer shockwaves of his attacks scatter enemy formations. The Alliance is awed, but the medics are terrified every time he collapses between bursts. Tsunade, watching from the front lines, clenches her fists. She knows this is unsustainable. Then comes one of the first major turning points. Naruto versus Obito as the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. In canon, Naruto relied heavily on Kurama and his teamwork with the Alliance. Here, the gates add a new dynamic. When Obito warps space and launches attacks that seem impossible to dodge, Naruto pushes into the sixth gate, blitzing close enough to actually land blows. His fists glow with sage energy and gate-enhanced speed, cracking Obito's defenses just enough to give the Alliance an opening. Obito snarls, so the Jinchuriki burns himself alive for scraps of victory? Pathetic! But beneath that sneer, he feels genuine pressure. Because Naruto is one of the few who can actually keep up with him, even if it's only for brief moments. This fight also highlights the toll. Every time Naruto uses the gates, Kurama complains louder. "You're wasting energy, idiot. You need me to survive." Naruto snaps back. "And I need my own strength too. I can't rely on you for everything." This back and forth, layered over their growing partnership, makes their bond more compelling. Kurama realizes Naruto doesn't just want to be the Jinchuriki hero. He wants to be the boy who can protect others with his own body, his own willpower. That understanding deepens their eventual friendship, because Kurama starts to respect not just Naruto's ideals, but his sheer stubborn courage. Now we reach one of the war's most iconic moments. Might Guy versus Madara. In canon, this was Guy's shining moment, the climax of his entire character arc. He opened the 8th gate, unleashed Night Guy, and nearly killed Madara. In this reimagined version, that moment still happens, but Naruto's presence changes it dramatically. Picture the battlefield. Madara, now the Ten Tails host, towers like a god. The alliance is crushed. Kakashi and Minato can barely hold on. Guy steps forward, declaring that it's his time to risk everything. He opens the 8th gate. Flames roar from his body. Kakashi and Lee watch in horror. Then, as Guy prepares to charge, Naruto stumbles forward too. His body is already shredded from earlier gates. He can barely stand. But he clenches his fists and says, "You're not fighting alone, bushy brows sensei." Guy turns, shocked. "Naruto, you can't. Your dream is still ahead of you. You can't throw your life away here." Naruto grins, teeth bloody. "Dreams don't mean anything if I can't fight for them." He opens the 7th gate. His aura erupts in green fire, mixed with Kurama's orange chakra. For a moment, Guy sees himself in Naruto, the same spirit of youth, but burning even brighter. Together, they charge Madara. Guy's Night Guy bends space with its kick. Naruto's Daytime Tiger, enhanced by Kurama's chakra, detonates alongside it. The battlefield shakes under the combined force. Madara is actually driven back harder than in canon, coughing blood. Shocked that two mortals, one sacrificing his life, the other breaking his body, could wound him this badly. "You humans," he mutters, shaken. But the cost is brutal. Guy collapses, his body breaking apart as in canon. Naruto falls too, his muscles shredded, his heart barely beating. This is the moment the Sage of Six Paths appears. In canon, the Sage grants Naruto power, because he is the child of prophecy. Here, the reasoning is more grounded. The Sage says, "You have burned your body and soul for this world, Naruto. You carry the will of fire, stronger than any who came before. I grant you this power, not because destiny demands it, but because you have already proven yourself." That line reframes Naruto's ascension. It isn't about prophecy anymore. It's about sacrifice. Now we move into the final battles against Madara and Kaguya. With the Sage's blessing, Naruto fights on godlike levels. But the gates still matter. Even with Six Paths power, Naruto occasionally taps into the lower gates for bursts of speed and power, especially when dragging allies out of danger in Kaguya's dimensions. Imagine him opening the 5th gate in the gravity dimension, blitzing upward to grab Kakashi before he's crushed. Or the 6th gate in the lava world, sprinting across the surface to save Sakura. These moments remind us that Naruto hasn't abandoned the training that defined him. Even as a pseudo-god, he still burns his own body for others. The climax with Kaguya, where Naruto and Sasuke combine powers to seal her, carries a different emotional weight. Naruto's arms are shredded not only from the Six Paths chakra, but from the gates he kept pushing during the fight. When they finally succeed, when Kaguya is sealed away, Naruto collapses harder than anyone else. Sasuke, panting, looks at him and realizes something profound. Naruto wasn't just stronger, he was willing to destroy himself over and over for others. That realization makes Sasuke's later decision to challenge Naruto even more tragic. Which brings us to the final battle, Naruto versus Sasuke, the last clash at the Valley of the End. In canon, this fight was already brutal. Two exhausted warriors throwing everything they had left. In this version, it's even harsher. Naruto enters already broken from the gates, muscles screaming. Sasuke, wielding the Rinnegan and his Susanoo, mocks him. "You're falling apart, Naruto. You'll die before you ever sit in the Hokage's chair." Naruto grins through the blood. "Then I'll die chasing my dream, and I'll die bringing you back." He opens the seventh gate one final time. The fight is carnage. Rasen Shuriken, enhanced with gate-level speed, tear through the battlefield. Susanoo's arrows clash with daytime tiger blasts. The valley itself crumbles under the pressure. Their final clash, Rasengan versus Chidori, becomes even more apocalyptic. And when they collapse, arms shattered, lying side by side, the scene is drenched in tragedy. Naruto didn't just refuse to give up. He literally destroyed his body to hold on to Sasuke. That makes Sasuke's surrender feel heavier. He doesn't just admit Naruto is stronger. He admits Naruto cared enough to break himself for him. By the end of the war, Naruto's legend is even greater than in canon. He's not just the savior of the world. He's the boy who combined Kurama's chakra, Sage Mode, and the forbidden gates to defeat gods. The Alliance remembers not just his victories, but the way he limped off battlefields, bloodied and broken, smiling through the pain. To some, he becomes the ultimate symbol of the will of fire. To others, he becomes a cautionary tale, a hero who may not live long because he gave too much of himself too quickly. And that's the crux of this chapter. The war with Gate Naruto is brighter, but also darker. His victories are more dramatic, but his costs are more terrifying. Every moment feels like it could be his last. Every triumph feels like it could be his downfall. The world doesn't just see a hero. They see a boy burning himself alive for their sake. The Valley of the End. The same place where Hashirama and Madara's rivalry reached its violent conclusion, and the place where Naruto and Sasuke's friendship turned rivalry had always been destined to end. In canon, this final fight was a brutal, exhausting clash. Two boys who had carried the weight of the world, throwing everything they had left at each other. But in our alternate timeline, where Naruto has mastered the 8 gates alongside Sage Mode and Kurama's chakra, this fight takes on an entirely new level of intensity, danger, and tragedy. Let's set the stage. The war is over. Kaguya has been sealed. The Alliance is recovering. Their hope finally restored. But Sasuke, consumed by his vision of revolution, declares his intent to destroy the current system and rebuild the shinobi world from scratch. He claims he will become the sole leader, the enemy of all nations, the darkness that unites them. Naruto, exhausted but resolute, refuses to let his friend walk that path. "If you want to be Hokage your way," Naruto says, "you'll have to beat me first." In Canyon, both were already drained. Here, the stakes are even higher. Naruto is battered from using the gates during the war, his muscles torn, his body screaming with pain. Sasuke, with the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinnegan, has pushed his eyes close to blindness from overuse. They stand across the waterfall, statues of Hashirama and Madara, looming, both knowing that only one of them may walk away. The fight begins with the familiar rhythm. Rasengan against Chidori, clones against Susanoo, feints and counterattacks. But when Sasuke activates his full-body Susanoo, summoning arrows of lightning and blades of pure chakra, Naruto knows he cannot hold back. He opens the 5th gate. The green aura erupts, mixing violently with Kurama's orange cloak. His speed spikes, his fists crash against Susanoo's armor, each blow cracking it further. The valley trembles under the shockwaves. Sasuke snarls, eyes spinning. So you really did learn it. The 8 gates. You've been burning yourself alive this whole time, haven't you? His tone is sharp, but there's a flicker of respect hidden inside. He realizes Naruto didn't just rely on Kurama. He trained, he suffered, he bled for his strength. And that realization only makes Sasuke more desperate to win. The battle escalates. Naruto opens the 6th gate. His movements blur into invisibility, clones darting across the battlefield faster than even the Sharingan can track. Rasengans slam into Susanoo from all sides, forcing Sasuke to release massive explosions of Amaterasu flames to defend himself. The sky lights up with fire and chakra. The statues of Hashirama and Madara crack from the sheer force of their blows. But the gates aren't free. Every step Naruto takes sends waves of pain through his body. His muscles scream, his bones creak. Blood seeps from his nose and mouth. Kurama yells inside him, "Idiot, you're going to die before you even land the final hit." Naruto just grins, voice ragged. "That's fine. If it means saving him, I'll give everything." Sasuke unleashes Kirin, summoning a massive lightning dragon from the storm clouds above. In canon, this attack was devastating, but could be countered. Here, Naruto counters with the 7th gate. His aura flares like an inferno, steam hissing off his skin. He launches Daytime Tiger, a shockwave of compressed air that tears through the heavens, colliding with Kirin in an explosion that splits the clouds apart. The shockwave flattens the surrounding forest, water from the valley rising into tidal waves. Both boys are thrown back, bloodied and gasping. The fight slows for a moment. Naruto struggles to stay upright, his legs trembling. Sasuke's vision blurs, his eyes bleeding. They glare at each other, two sides of the same coin, both knowing that this battle isn't just about power. It's about ideals. Sasuke growls, "You don't understand, Naruto. I'm willing to shoulder all the hatred alone. I'll kill you, and then I'll become the darkness that unites this world." Naruto shakes his head, coughing blood. "I do understand. That's why I won't let you do it. Because we're friends. Because you're my brother." Sasuke charges with Susanoo's blade. Naruto, too drained for Sage Mode, too battered for another Rasen Shuriken, opens the 7th gate fully one last time. His aura roars, mixing with Kurama's chakra, creating a terrifying golden-green blaze. He meets Sasuke's blade with a Rasengan so fast it bends the air around it. The clash detonates, sending shockwaves that obliterate the valley walls. The fight descends into raw, desperate brawling. Their chakra is nearly gone. Naruto's gates are tearing his body apart. Sasuke's eyes are nearly blind. They punch, kick, headbutt, each blow fueled not by chakra anymore, but by sheer willpower. Naruto collapses twice, forcing himself back up. Sasuke staggers, barely able to stand. Finally, in one last desperate move, they charge Rasengan against Chidori, just as they had years ago. This time, the gates amplify the collision to apocalyptic levels. The statues of Hashirama and Madara crumble. The valley shakes like an earthquake. The explosion of energy blinds the sky. When the dust settles, both lie on the ground, arms destroyed, blood soaking into the stone. Here's where the difference truly matters. In canon, Naruto's resilience and his refusal to give up reached Sasuke's heart. In this version, it's even more powerful. Sasuke turns his head, seeing Naruto's body trembling, shredded from the gates. His muscles twitch involuntarily, blood leaking from every pore. Naruto whispers, voice barely audible, "I told you, Sasuke. I'll break myself 1,000 times, if it means not losing you." Sasuke's eyes widen. For the first time, the weight of Naruto's sacrifice hits him. This isn't just talk. This isn't just words about friendship. Naruto has literally destroyed himself, over and over, across their entire journey, to keep this bond alive. The memories flood back. Naruto opening the gates against Neji, against Gaara, against Pain, against Madara, always burning his body, always collapsing afterward, always getting back up, and always reaching for Sasuke. Sasuke's chest tightens. He realizes that no revolution, no dream of destroying the system, could compare to what Naruto has shown him. A bond so strong it defies even death. His voice cracks. You really are a fool. Naruto smiles weakly, eyes closing. Yeah, but I'm your fool. And that's the breaking point. Sasuke surrenders, not just because he lost the fight, but because he finally understands the depth of Naruto's resolve. He sees that Naruto isn't just chasing Hokage for glory. He's chasing it to protect everyone, even if it kills him. And Sasuke, for the first time, feels the weight of his friend's suffering. The aftermath of this fight is even more haunting than canon. Both boys are dragged back to the village, half dead. Tsunade and Sakura work frantically to stabilize Naruto's body. They can heal the broken bones, repair some of the torn muscles, but the damage from repeated gate use is deeper. His body is scarred permanently. His joints ache. His stamina, though still vast, is no longer limitless. He has paid a price that will follow him for the rest of his life. And yet, the world sees him as even more of a hero. Not just the boy who saved Konoha, not just the child of prophecy, but the shinobi who combined Sage Mode, Kurama's chakra, and the 8 gates to protect everyone. The shinobi who burned his body for peace. To the people, his scars are proof of his sacrifice. To Naruto, they are just reminders of the promise he kept. Never abandoning Sasuke, never abandoning anyone. Sasuke, meanwhile, carries his own scars, but also a new respect. He tells Naruto later, "I thought I was the only one who understood pain. I was wrong. You've carried it longer than I realized. You chose to destroy yourself just to save me. I don't know if I can ever repay that, but I'll stand with you from now on." Their friendship, reborn from the ashes, feels even more profound in this timeline. So what does this mean for Naruto's future? On one hand, he is stronger than ever. He has proven himself in every battle, from Gaara to Pain to Madara to Sasuke. He has shown the world what it means to carry the will of fire. But on the other hand, his body is fragile. The 8 gates have left scars that no medical ninjutsu can erase. Tsunade warns him, "You might never be able to fight like that again. If you keep opening the higher gates, you won't live long enough to grow old." Naruto just laughs, rubbing the back of his head. "That's fine. I don't need to grow old. I just need to keep my promise, to protect everyone as long as I can." That line defines his legacy in this alternate world. Naruto is not just the strongest. He is the most selfless. The hero who kept breaking himself to keep others safe. The Hokage who carried scars, not from being chosen by destiny, but from choosing to fight, again and again, no matter the cost. And that's the tragedy too. Every victory feels earned, but every wound feels permanent. Naruto shines brighter than ever, but burns faster too. And the question that lingers, even after his final battle with Sasuke, is this: how long can he keep going before his body gives out completely? Every story has an ending, but not every ending is clean. When the dust settled at the Valley of the End, Naruto and Sasuke lay side by side, broken but alive. They had ended the cycle of hatred, reunited as brothers, and saved the world. But unlike in canon, where Naruto's body eventually healed thanks to Uzumaki vitality and medical ninjutsu, this alternate Naruto carried a much heavier price. Because in this version, he hadn't just fought with Kurama's chakra or Sage Mode. He had burned himself over and over with the 8 gates, And that choice reshaped not only his future, but the way the entire shinobi world remembered him. Let's start with the immediate aftermath. Naruto is rushed back to Konoha, barely conscious, his muscles twitching uncontrollably from overuse of the seventh gate. Tsunade, Sakura, and the medical corps work frantically to stabilize him. They can heal torn flesh, mend fractured bones, and soothe his chakra pathways, but they cannot undo everything. The gates leave behind cellular damage, micro tears in muscles that never fully recover, scar tissue in joints that stiffens over time. Tsunade grimly tells Kakashi he'll recover enough to walk, to fight again if he has to, but every time he opens those gates, the damage compounds. He's shortening his own lifespan. Kurama growls inside Naruto, frustrated. Stupid brat. You didn't need the gates. You had me. My chakra would have been enough. But deep down, Kurama understands. Naruto never wanted to rely only on the fox. He wanted strength he could call his own. Strength born from his own training and resolve. The 8 gates represented that. They were his proof that even without Kurama, he could stand on his own. Now let's talk about reputation. The world already saw Naruto as a hero. He had defeated pain, united the nations, and fought side by side with legends to save the world. But with the gates in the mix, his image becomes something else entirely. To the common shinobi, he's a symbol of sacrifice, a boy who gave his body to protect them. They whisper stories of how he blurred across battlefields with green flames, how his fists cracked Madara's godlike form, how he collapsed bleeding after every fight, but always stood back up. To civilians, he's the embodiment of the will of fire, the Hokage who literally burned himself for peace. But among the leadership, there's unease. The council in Konoha debates behind closed doors. Some argue Naruto should be restricted from using the gates again, that the Hokage cannot risk his life recklessly. Others argue that his legend is what inspires the next generation, that his scars are proof of his strength. Tsunade defends him fiercely, but even she knows the truth. Every time Naruto opens the higher gates, he edges closer to death. And that brings us to Naruto's personal struggle. He has always been reckless, always willing to throw himself into danger for others. But now, every mission, every battle, carries an extra layer of risk. He feels the ache in his joints when he trains. He feels the burn in his muscles when he spars with students. Sometimes, when he's alone, his hands tremble without warning. He knows it's the legacy of the gates, and he knows he'll never fully escape it. This creates a subtle but powerful change in how he approaches leadership. In canon, Naruto as Hokage is still the energetic knucklehead, full of optimism, still leaping into battle when needed. Here, he's a little more cautious, not because he's lost his fire, but because he knows his body won't last forever. He spends more time training the next generation, more time passing on the will of fire, because he's painfully aware that his own flame might burn out too soon. Let's explore his relationships. Sakura, as a medical ninja, is constantly worried. She scolds him every time he pushes himself, warns him that his body can't take it anymore. Naruto laughs it off, but deep down, he listens. Sasuke, after returning to the village, feels guilty. He knows Naruto destroyed himself, in part to save him. That guilt shapes their friendship in a different way. Instead of just rivalry, Sasuke becomes almost protective. He fights alongside Naruto, not just as an equal, but as someone trying to shoulder the burden so Naruto doesn't have to. Kakashi too watches his student with a mix of pride and regret. He sees in Naruto the same reckless fire that burned Obito and Guy, and he wonders if it will consume him too. And then there's Guy and Lee. To them, Naruto is a brother in arms. They see his use of the gates not as recklessness, but as proof of his flames of youth. Guy, confined to a wheelchair after the 8th gate, calls Naruto his successor in spirit. Lee trains with him daily, pushing both their bodies to the brink. Their bond deepens because they understand each other in a way few others can. The bond of those who chose the hardest path, knowing it would destroy them. But the consequences aren't just physical. They're also symbolic. Naruto becomes the Hokage, yes, but his legacy is different from canon. Instead of being remembered mainly as the child of prophecy or the peacemaker, he's remembered as the burning Hokage, the leader who carried scars from the 8 gates, who fought like a flame that refused to die. Statues and paintings of him often depict not just his orange cloak, but the green aura of the gates, steam rising from his skin. He becomes a myth, a story told to Academy students. The 7th Hokage fought so hard for peace that his body broke again and again, but he never gave up. And history itself twists because of it. In this world, the 8 gates are no longer just associated with Guy and Lee. They're tied forever to Naruto's legend. Young shinobi train harder, believing that if the Hokage could master the gates, maybe they can too. The philosophy of hard work, of burning yourself to protect others, spreads like wildfire. But so does the cautionary tale. Medical ninja constantly remind trainees. Remember what the gates did to Naruto. Power always has a cost. Now let's think about the bigger picture. The 8 gates represent sacrifice, but Naruto's constant use of them also raises a deeper question. How sustainable is peace if its symbol is a hero who destroyed himself? Some shinobi begin to worry that Naruto's example will push the next generation to sacrifice recklessly, to throw away their lives in the name of duty. Others argue that this is exactly what the world needs, proof that true peace requires true sacrifice. This debate becomes part of Naruto's legacy. Was he an inspiration, or was he a warning? In Naruto himself, he never regrets it. Every scar, every ache, every shortened breath, he carries with pride. To him, they're proof that he kept his promises, proof that he never abandoned his friends, proof that he lived exactly the way he always said he would. When younger shinobi ask him if the gates were worth it, he smiles and says, "If I didn't burn myself for you guys, then what kind of Hokage would I be?" But in private, the story is more bittersweet. Hinata, his wife in the future, sometimes finds him wincing when he stands too quickly, or holding his ribs after a long day. His children, Boruto and Himawari, grow up hearing stories not just of their father's victories, but of the scars he carried. To them, the gates are part of their inheritance, a reminder that their father gave more of himself than anyone else. So what does Naruto's legacy look like in this alternate world? It's brighter, but shorter, louder, but heavier. He's remembered as the Hokage who combined 3 impossible powers: the 9 tails, Sage Mode, and the 8 gates. He's remembered as the shinobi who nearly killed himself in every battle, but never backed down. He's remembered not just as a hero, but as a martyr who survived. His statues stand taller, his name carries even more weight, but his life expectancy is cut shorter. He may not live long enough to become the old man Hokage we see in canon. Instead, he burns like a comet, brilliant, unforgettable, but fleeting. And that's what makes this what if so fascinating, because it doesn't erase Naruto's themes, it amplifies them. His story has always been about pain, perseverance, and the refusal to give up. The 8 gates simply make that literal. He gives more than anyone else, suffers more than anyone else, and inspires more than anyone else. But he also risks becoming the ultimate example of the cost of heroism, a leader who gave everything and left little behind for himself. As the shinobi world tells his story, some focus on his victories, others focus on his sacrifices, but all agree on one thing. Naruto Uzumaki, the boy who dreamed of becoming Hokage, achieved it not by destiny alone, not by being chosen, but by choosing to fight harder, to suffer deeper, and to burn brighter than anyone else. And that is the true consequence of giving Naruto the 8 gates. His legend grows, his victories multiply, but his body, his life, and his future all become more fragile. His legacy is both greater and more tragic. He becomes not just the hero of the Hidden Leaf, not just the 7th Hokage, but the burning flame of the shinobi world, a symbol of sacrifice that will echo across generations. And so we come to the end of this long journey. We've reimagined Naruto's story from the very beginning, from his days as a lonely academy student, all the way to his final battle at the Valley of the End, through the lens of the 8 gates. Along the way, we've seen how this single change would reshape his life, his battles, his friendships, and his legacy. But now, we have to step back and ask the bigger questions. What does this alternate Naruto mean? What does it tell us about sacrifice, about destiny, and about what makes the original story so powerful? And ultimately, would this version of Naruto be better or worse? Let's start by recapping the key moments. In the academy, Naruto was no longer just the class clown, the failure no one believed in. Under Guy's influence, he began learning the basics of the 8 gates. This gave him an edge during training, but it also gave him a burden. He wasn't just a boy with Kurama inside him anymore. He was a boy who tore his body apart to prove himself. By the time of the Chunin exams, he was already different. Against Neji, against Gaara, he didn't just win with clever tricks. He won by burning his muscles, by risking his life, by embodying the philosophy of sacrifice. The world began noticing him earlier. His rivalry with Sasuke deepened faster, and his path to greatness started sooner. In Shippuden, the gates changed everything. His fight against Deidara, against Orochimaru, against Pain, each one became sharper, more dangerous, more painful. Against Kakuzu, he combined Rasen Shuriken with Gates level speed. Against Pain, he mixed Sage Mode with the 6th gate, overwhelming the paths in ways no one expected. Against Sasuke, his gate-enhanced Rasengan shattered Suzanu's defenses in their final clash. Every battle was brighter, but every collapse was heavier. His body suffered in ways that even Kurama couldn't fully heal. In the war, the gates amplified both his triumphs and his tragedies. He tore through White Zetsu like a whirlwind, blitzed Obito at impossible speeds, and stood beside Guy as a fellow gate user against Madara. He nearly burned himself out on the battlefield, his legend spreading faster than in canon, but the whispers about his recklessness grew too. The Sage of Six Paths didn't just call him the child of prophecy. He acknowledged him as the boy who had already proven himself through sacrifice. And finally, at the Valley of the End, his clash with Sasuke took on a new tone. He wasn't just the boy who never gave up. He was the boy who destroyed his body over and over, just to hold on to his friend. His final words to Sasuke, "I'll break myself 1,000 times if it means not losing you," hit harder because they were literally true. That was the climax of this alternate Naruto story, the embodiment of sacrifice, the shinobi who gave everything for bonds. So what do we take away from this? On the surface, it makes Naruto stronger. With the 8 gates, he reaches heights even earlier, defeats enemies faster, and becomes a legend sooner. His reputation soars, his rivals fear him more, and his village views him with awe. But underneath, it makes Naruto more tragic. Every victory leaves scars. Every triumph shortens his future. His Hokage years are heavier because his body is weaker. His life expectancy shrinks, and his family grows up with a father who limps, who winces, who smiles through the pain, but can't hide it completely. Now let's talk about themes. The original Naruto story has always been about overcoming limits. Naruto didn't have talent. He didn't have a prestigious clan. He didn't have the Sharingan or the Byakugan. He had nothing but sheer determination. That's what made his victory so inspiring. He worked harder than anyone else, and he earned everything. The 8 gates represent that same idea: hard work, pain, and sacrifice, but they push it to an extreme. They turn Naruto's story from one of perseverance to one of martyrdom. Instead of work hard and you will succeed, the message becomes burn yourself until nothing is left, and maybe you'll succeed. Is that better? In some ways, yes. It makes his victories more spectacular, his legend more dramatic, his sacrifices more meaningful. Watching him collapse after every fight makes us feel his pain more directly. It emphasizes just how far he's willing to go for his friends and his village. In another sense, though, it undermines something essential. Because part of Naruto's appeal in canon was that he found balance. He didn't just work harder, he worked smarter. He found ways to use shadow clones creatively, to combine sage mode with teamwork, to trust in others. The gates risk stripping that balance away, reducing him to a blaze that eventually burns out. And that raises the ultimate question. Would this Naruto still be Naruto? On one hand, yes. His personality doesn't change. He's still reckless, still stubborn, still smiling through blood and tears. In fact, giving him the gates just amplifies those traits. But on the other hand, the danger of the gates means he might not live long enough to see the future he dreamed of. The story of Naruto was never about dying for peace. It was about living for peace. By giving him the gates, we risk turning him into a tragic hero instead of a hopeful one. But maybe that's the point. This alternate timeline isn't meant to replace canon. It's meant to reflect on it. It forces us to think about the cost of sacrifice, about the fine line between perseverance and self-destruction. Naruto without the gates is inspiring because he finds ways to win without killing himself. Naruto with the gates is inspiring because he shows the ultimate willingness to give everything, even his life. Both are powerful, both carry meaning, but they highlight different aspects of what it means to be a hero. Now let's step into the shoes of the fans. If this version of Naruto were real, if Kishimoto had written him with the 8 gates, how would the fandom react? Some would love it. They'd say it makes Naruto more badass, more legendary, more unforgettable. They'd point to the Valley of the End and say, that was the greatest fight in anime history. Others would hate it. They'd say it ruins the theme, that Naruto becomes too overpowered, that the gates make him less relatable. The debates would rage forever, just like they already do about his power-ups in canon. And maybe that's what makes this what if so fun. It isn't about giving a definitive answer. It's about imagining, debating, and reflecting. It's about asking ourselves, what do we value more in a story, raw spectacle, or thematic balance? Do we want a Naruto who burns brighter, or a Naruto who lives longer? Do we want a hero who sacrifices everything, or a hero who learns to endure within his limits? For me, the answer is somewhere in the middle. The 8 Gates Naruto would be unforgettable, yes. His fights would be jaw-dropping, his scars legendary, his legacy immortal. But the canon Naruto we got, the one who learned balance, who lived to see his dream come true, who built a family and a future, might be the one we needed more. Because hope isn't just about burning out in glory. It's about lasting long enough to enjoy the peace you created. So in the end, maybe the 8 Gates Naruto isn't a replacement. Maybe he's a reflection, a mirror showing us what Naruto's story could have been if it leaned harder into tragedy. A reminder of why the canon story chose a different path. Because the boy who never gave up didn't just want to die for his dream. He wanted to live for it. He wanted to grow old, to laugh with his friends, to raise his kids, to watch the next generation rise. That's the true victory, not just winning the war, but surviving it. And that brings us to the final reflection. What if Naruto had the 8 gates? He would be stronger. He would be scarred. He would be legendary. But he might not have lived long enough to enjoy the peace he fought for. And maybe that's why in the story we got, he didn't have them. Because sometimes the greatest strength isn't burning yourself out. Sometimes the greatest strength is finding balance, enduring, and living to see tomorrow. So as we close this series, I'll leave you with this thought. Which version of Naruto do you prefer? The blazing flame who burns himself for others, or the steady fire who learns to endure? Both are heroic. Both are inspiring. But they show us 2 very different truths about what it means to never give up. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you've watched all the way through, drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you have wanted to see Naruto with the 8 gates? Or do you think the canon story got it just right? Either way, one thing is certain. Naruto Uzumaki, in any timeline, will always be the boy who never gives up, the shinobi who protected his friends, and the hero who carried the will of fire. And with that, we end our What If Naruto Had the 8 Gates series. Believe it,